Hi, I'm Rick Dior. I'm professor of percussion at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. Today we're going to go over the North Carolina 2020 District Solo for Snare Drum. This is for grades 9 through 10. And it's from a book called Portraits in Rhythm by Anthony Cirone. And the solo this year is number 18. This is a very fast solo. It's a scherzo, so quarter note equals 160. Now, you're going to want to get the study guide for this book when you purchase it. There's two versions. There's a version that just has the etudes, and then there's a version that has Mr. Cirone's comments, which you definitely want to read. We'll be going over some of those today. The most important thing about this solo you need to remember is that it's extremely fast and the dynamics need to be very pronounced. So you have this fortissimo going to a piano theme that happens again and again. Now, before we go on, let me just talk a little about the equipment that I'm using. So the snare drum I'm using is a Pearl Philharmonic drum, and you see the snare system there. It's got 3 sets of snares. It's coated cable, metal cable, and curly snares. So you don't have to use this exact kind of snare drum, obviously, but you don't necessarily want to use a drum set snare drum that just has curly snares. These kinds of drums they're much tighter, they're much more sensitive, and your rolls are going to sound better. Now, as far as the head goes, I'm using a calfskin drum head. You're probably not going to be using one of those. So a good head to use is a thin head like a Remo Diplomat, a hazy Remo Diplomat. You can use an Evans head. They work too, orchestral snare drum head. You'll notice that I do have some muffling on this drum. This is a small piece of leather. And I'm playing in a very live room today, so it's necessary. Now, I know since the pandemic is going on, pretty much all of you are going to be recording your solos at home or maybe in a band room. If you do that, make sure you use a bigger room so the drum can breathe in there. Also, if it's really, really reverberant, like this room, you may want to muffle the snare just a little bit. So let's start talking about the solo. Oh, by the way, the sticks I'm using, some of you might ask this. They're sticks that I make. It's a pair of zebra wood sticks with barrel tips, which I really like for etudes like this because you need a lot of articulation. And they're pretty heavy. They're about 70 grams. I like a heavier stick when I play orchestral snare drum. So let's talk about this etude. As you heard there, what I just played, it was up to tempo, and you heard the main theme, which is like a gallop. So 1, 2, 1, 2. So one thing you should remember when you're playing this is you should practice always with the metronome. It's very easy for the tempo to drift around. The other thing is, you see there I'm using one hand on all those eighth notes. That's going to be a lot more even than doing this. Now, I'm not saying you can't do that. You definitely can. But if you use one hand there, your odds of it being even are much, much better. Also, when you play this solo, you want to play a little bit on top of the beat. So don't rush, but you're playing a little bit ahead of the metronome. And you'll notice that if you go back and listen to me play it, you'll hear that I'm a little bit in front of it to give that sense of forward momentum. And it's exciting. That's what you want. You want a lot of, almost quickness to the solo. That's a good word for it. All right? So that main theme is composed of a roll. That's a forte piano. And the way I do this is I'll do a buzz with both hands. And as I do that, I'll move with my right hand towards the edge. And it's similar for all of these. All right? So let me just play that main theme for you, the first couple lines. 1, 2, 1, 2. So you see there how that forte piano works. Loud, soft, loud, soft. Now you don't have to play too soft. There's one other place in the solo that it goes to pianissimo, 2 Ps, rather than piano. So save it for that. All right, and you'll see that it's in line 8. All right, and that's the softest part of the solo. One other thing you need to remember when you're playing this solo is evenness in your 16ths. So, and the way to do that is to actually hold the stick a little bit tighter. Not a death grip, but just a little bit tighter so those notes can be perfectly even. All right, and you see on lines 4 and 5, we have those 2 16th notes that are accented. So I'm playing 2 of those close to the center and then moving with my right hand to the edge. Now the trickiest line of this solo is line 6. It's not hard to execute, it's just Mr. Cirone wrote it strange. Okay, it's kind of backwards. And what I think I'm going to do is write it out in an easier way to read, and I'll post it in this video, probably right now, so you can see how it's supposed to be. So just make sure you learn that correctly. There is one little typo in 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5th bar of line 6, that note is tied, but it's not a roll. So just cross that note out, and the roll comes on the and. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to slow the metronome down to 130, and I'm going to play the pickup to line 6 for you so you can see how this works. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so that's how it should be played. Now, I'm going to play it a little faster. Well, I'll play it at tempo. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And right there, like I said before, that's the softest part of the solo. You want to put a slight accent on each group of those 16ths. It's very musical to do that, phrasing-wise. And then we get to the rolls. So I know a lot of you might have trouble with your closed rolls. The main thing is to relax. So that section there, we'll slow this down again, from lines 8 and 9, should sound like this. 1, 2. So the last 4 bars of line 9, you should get off of that roll on the and. So 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and then you lift up. So 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. All right? And then the next bar, line 10, put a slight emphasis on each one of those rolls. So they're articulate. The beginnings of them. But again, those rolls are not tied. All right? And then finally, we have our recapitulation of the theme. So that's the last half of line 10 into 11. Now, the last 2 bars should be very big because it's your final statement. So that sounds like this. We'll put our tempo back up to 160. All right? So play it very strong there. That's the final thing of the solo. So this is a really challenging solo, especially for grades 9 and 10. If you have to do it a little slower, that's okay. Try not to do it under 140. It doesn't make much sense, and then you lose kind of the flavor of the scherzo, the quick motion. If you have any questions, you can email me at rickdior@gmail.com or rmdior@uncc.edu. I'll post that on the screen. But otherwise, good luck and stay safe.